this tutorial, I'll demonstrate how to integrate any free API into your React project. We'll be using the Fake Store API as our example. If you visit the API documentation, you'll find approximately 20 products available. Each product contains a unique ID, title, price, description, image, and additional attributes. I'll walk you through the complete integration process step by step. When you first load the application, you'll notice a loading state while the data is being fetched. Once the loading completes, all 20 products will be displayed on screen. Let's begin building this API integration project in React. Open Visual Studio Code and launch a new terminal window. Execute the command npm create vite at latest and press enter, and you'll be prompted to provide a project name. We'll use the same name as our folder. Select React as your framework and JavaScript as your variant. After a few moments, the development server will start at localhost 5173. Copy this URL and open it in your preferred browser. Navigate to the src folder and delete the app.css file. Open app.jsx and remove the default counter code to start with a clean slate. Now we'll establish our folder structure. Create folders named API, hooks, pages, and products. Inside the API folder, create your first file called Axios instance.js. Create a second file in the API folder named product API.js. Open the hooks folder and create a file called useproducts.js. Navigate to the pages folder and create home.jsx. In the products folder, create two files, productcard.jsx and productlist.jsx. Our folder structure is now complete. We'll begin by configuring three essential files: app.jsx, axiosinstance.jsx, and productapi.js. Open axiosinstance.jsx first, then return to the terminal. Run the command npm install Axios to add the package. In Axios instance, import Axios at the top, then create a constant called Axios instance using axios.create. Inside the configuration object, set the base URL property to your API's URL. Add a timeout property set to 5,000 milliseconds, then export the Axios instance. Next, open product API.js. Import the Axios instance at the top, then export a constant called getProducts as an async arrow function. Inside the function, declare a constant called response and await the Axios instance.get method, passing products as the endpoint string. Return response.data from this function. Now we'll move on to the useproducts.js file. Begin by importing useEffect and useState from React, along with getProducts from our API file. Export a default function named useProducts. Inside this function, declare three state variables: products initialized as an empty array, loading initialized as true, and error initialized as null. Below the state declarations, add a useEffect hook. Inside useEffect, define an async function called fetchProducts. Structure it with try, catch, and finally blocks. In the try block, declare a constant called data and await the getProducts function. Add a validation check using ifNotArray.isArrayData to ensure the response is an array. If the validation fails, throw a new error with the message invalid API response. And above use setProducts, setLoading, and setError as their respective setter functions. After the validation check, call setProducts with the data. In the catch block, log the error to the console using console.error. Below that, call setError with the message failed to load products. In the finally block, use setTimeout with 3,000 milliseconds, then call setLoading false to remove the loading state. Call the fetchProducts function immediately after defining it and pass an empty dependency array to useEffect. Before closing the function, return an object containing products, loading, and error. This completes the use products hook. Next, open product list.jsx. Import use products and product card at the top, then export a default function named product list. Inside the function, destructure products, loading, and error from the use products hook. Add a conditional statement. If loading is true, return a div element with an empty string as its content by default. Add another conditional. If error exists, return a paragraph element displaying the error in curly braces. Add a third conditional. If products.length equals 0, return a paragraph tag with the text no product found. Finally, return a main element. Inside the main tag, use curly braces to map over the products array. Pass product as the parameter to the map function and render a product card component for each product. Set the key prop to product.id and pass the product object as a prop. This completes the product list component. Now open productcard.jsx. Export a default function named product card and destructure product from the props parameter to access the data. Return an article element as the wrapper. Inside the article, add an img tag with src set to product.image and alt set to product.title. Below the image, create a div container. Inside this div, add an h2 heading displaying product.title. Create another div containing two span elements. The first span should display price, and the second should display product.price. Create another div with two span elements. The first span displays category, and the second displays product.category. Create one more div with two span elements. The first span shows rating, and the second shows product.rating.rate. Finally, add a paragraph tag. Inside the paragraph, place a span with the text description, followed by product.description in the paragraph itself. The product card component is now complete. Navigate to the homepage file. Import product list at the top and export a default function named home. Return an h2 heading with the text API integration. Below the heading, render the product list component. This completes the home page. Open app.jsx and import the home component at the top. Inside the return statement, render the home component. Check your browser and you'll see all components have rendered successfully. All product data is now displaying. Only the styling remains to be applied. I'll add the styling using Tailwind CSS, which I won't explain in detail. I'll simply apply the pre-written styles. We'll add styling to all components where necessary. To use Tailwind, we first need to install it. Open a new terminal and execute this command. npm install Tailwind CS, followed by the Tailwind Vite plugin. Run this command and press Enter. Tailwind CSS is now installed. Next, navigate to index.css and import Tailwind CSS directives at the top of the file. Then, open the vite.config.js file. Inside the plugins array, invoke Tailwind CSS by calling it as a function. At the top of the file, import Tailwind CSS. Check the browser output now. Our styling is applied and the API is functioning correctly. The data takes 3 seconds to load as expected. If you're interested in more small projects like this, learning how to implement specific features in React, or understanding how Axios works, please like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.